Why was the janitor bleeding on the weapons room floor, with 5 elite snipers laughing like it was a show? The bucket had hit the concrete with a metallic crash, water spilling out in a dirty flood. The laughter came sharp and cruel. Olivia Reed knelt on her knees, filthy mop water running down her face, mixing with the blood where her forehead had struck the wall. They called her a janitor, called her useless, told her to use her own shirt to clean the mess. And she did what she always did, stayed silent. Sergeant Ryan Burke stood over her, chest puffed like he owned the building, his voice dripping with disdain. "Use your shirt to wipe it, janitor. Don't you dare touch our clean rags." The others howled at his cruelty. In that moment, no one noticed the flicker in her single visible eye. Not fear, not weakness, something colder, sharper, a calculation, distances, angles, exits, weaknesses. She saw it all in a heartbeat, the way she once had on ridges in faraway deserts, but no one ever noticed the janitor. She stayed invisible. That was her skill now. Fort Benning stretched across the Georgia countryside, historic, proud, brutal, the home of the infantry, the place that had ground soldiers into warriors for generations. Its walls carried echoes of history, of sacrifice, of lessons never fully learned. Building 17 housed the sniper school, a sanctum for the sharpest shots the Army had ever shaped. To them, Olivia was nothing more than background noise pushing a squeaky cart. Every morning was the same. At 5:30 a.m. she walked in with her head down, gray uniform faded from 1,000 washes, her shoes soaked through with water, her mop stained with work no one thanked her for. 18 months she had lived this way. 18 months of pretending to be less. The other janitors warned her about the weapons room. Clean fast, get out, don't draw attention. But Olivia needed the job, needed the pay, even if the VA benefits barely covered her nerve medication. That morning she had walked into the wrong place at the wrong time. 5 of them were already there, instructors gathered around rifles and arrogance. Burke, the worst of them, had a cruel smile carved into his face. Next to him, Rodriguez cracked his thick knuckles. Chen leaned on the rack, spinning a beer can he wasn't supposed to have. Davis and Williams grinned like wolves circling a lamb. "Look what crawled in from the sewer," Burke said. She tried to back out, tried to slide her cart quietly into the corner, but hope had long since abandoned her life. Rodriguez kicked her bucket, sending water across the floor. Dirty water soaked her thin shoes. "Oops," he said, mocking her. She bent for a rag, her hand trembling just enough to give her away. Not fear. Damage. Nerve damage she fought every day. And as her fingers tightened around the mop, a memory crashed into her, the grip of a rifle in Afghanistan, the steadiness, the perfect calm of lining up a shot. She forced the memory away. Here she was only a cleaner. But the men didn't stop. A beer can slammed against her temple. Laughter roared louder. Her collar slipped, revealing an old dog tag. Burke saw it, grabbed the chain, yanked her forward. She gasped. His cologne mixed with cruelty made her stomach turn. He sneered, "Stealing from soldiers now. Whose tag did you take, janitor?" She carefully pulled the chain back, tucked it beneath her collar, and resumed mopping. Silent, controlled, bleeding. Brian Murphy, the youngest in the room, laughed along with the others, but unease shadowed his eyes. He saw something in her stare. That distant, hollow look he had seen at VA hospitals. He didn't know why, but it unsettled him. Burke wasn't finished. He grabbed her hair, yanked her head back, forced her to her knees. She didn't cry out. He snarled into her face, demanding to know whose tag she carried. She met his gaze, calm, steady, measuring him like a target. He faltered for a fraction of a second, then shoved her back down. Rodriguez leaned forward, lips curling. "Since you're already on your knees, clean my boots. Use your tongue." The room erupted in laughter. Olivia's voice cut through it like a shot, quiet, simple, unshakable. "I won't do that." The words froze the room. It wasn't defiance, it was truth, the way sunrise is truth, the way water flows downhill. Olivia Reed doesn't lick boots. The laughter died. Silence pressed in. For the first time they felt something shift, a presence beneath her rags, but before Rodriguez could react, the door opened. Captain Rivera walked in. He saw the blood, saw Olivia on her knees, saw the wolves around her, and he turned, walked away, pretended it never happened. That was the way of the system. Easier to ignore the broken, easier to step over the invisible. Burke, hungry to crush the last ember of dignity, shoved a Barrett rifle toward her. Hit the target at 500 meters, one shot. If you miss, you're done. Fired, gone, no references, no paycheck. The others stirred uncomfortably. Against the rules, dangerous, but they wanted to see it, wanted to see her fail. Olivia looked at the rifle, then at Burke, then at the distant target. I haven't shot in 3 years, she whispered. My depth perception is gone, my hands shake, I'm not who you think I am. But her hand reached for the rifle anyway. Because something stirred beneath the humiliation. Pride, memory, need, just once to remind herself who she had been. She lifted the weapon, adjusted instinctively. No calibration, no test shots, just raw experience. Her breathing slowed into that old cadence. Inhale, exhale, half breath, hold. The rifle became part of her again. The world narrowed, silence deepened, even the birds stopped singing. And then the crack. The round punched clean through the 500-meter target, continued into the 800-meter target behind it, both dead center. The room went still. Burke's face drained of color. Rodriguez stumbled back. Chen let out a whimper. And then Brian Murphy whispered, voice shaking, "It can't be, you're supposed to be dead." Olivia set the rifle down with deliberate care. The morning light caught the receiver, revealing an etched code, a ghostly mark, Ghost 7. Brian fell to his knees in the dirty mop water. Tears spilled down his face. "My brother, you saved him. David talked about you until the day he died." The room that had once been filled with mocking laughter now sat heavy in shame, in revelation, in disbelief. No one spoke except Olivia. Her voice low, wounded, cold. "You didn't want to know, none of you did." And with that the janitor was gone. Only the ghost remained. How could a janitor be the ghost they'd been told was long dead? The silence in the weapons room was suffocating. 5 men who had mocked her now stared like they were seeing an apparition rise from the dirt. Brian was still kneeling, sobbing in the water where they'd forced her to kneel moments before. His grief poured raw into the room. Burke's hand shook. Chen couldn't meet her eye. And Olivia, she just stood there, one hand brushing the blood from her temple, her expression unreadable. She had lived too long with invisibility to savor the moment. Shame wasn't her victory. It was theirs to carry. Colonel Harrison watched it all from his office monitor. He hadn't planned for this revelation. Not yet. He had wanted her hidden longer, invisible bait for enemies in the shadows, but plans never survive contact with the human heart. He closed the folder that bore her photograph. The caption beneath it read, "Specialist Olivia Reed, call sign, Ghost 7, his protege, the best sniper he had ever trained, and now reduced to scrubbing floors, bleeding on concrete." Captain Rivera had come to him earlier that morning, shame in his voice. "She was on her knees, sir, surrounded, blood on her face, and I walked away." Harrison hadn't scolded him. He had simply said the truth. "Because Burke's uncle sits on the Joint Chiefs, because you were afraid, not because of me." Rivera had flinched, because it was true. But now Harrison saw something else on the monitor, not just shame in his instructors' faces. Fear. And that fear told him the clock had started. The people hunting Ghost 7 would not wait much longer. Back in the weapons room, Burke tried to speak. His voice cracked, thin as paper. Why didn't you say something? Why let us?" Her laugh cut him off, a sound with no humor, just exhaustion. "Tell you what? That I once mattered. That I gave an eye, a hand, and the best years of my life so men like you could laugh at a woman with a mop." Her gaze swept across them, unflinching. Would it have changed anything? Would you have treated me as more than dirt if you knew I'd been Ghost 7? No, you didn't want to know. The words landed like bullets, because they weren't just aimed at Burke and his pack. They cut deeper, into the quiet complicity of a system that had let her vanish, discarded once she was broken. Brian lifted his head, his face wet red. You saved my brother. December 15th, 2022, Hindu Kush, Operation Viper's Nest. 47 kills in 23 minutes. We never knew who you were. He always said an angel covered him. That angel was you. Olivia closed her eye briefly. A memory slammed into her chest. Mortars walking up the ridge. Blood soaking her uniform. Dragging David Murphy, half dead, to a medevac bird. The explosion that had stolen her eye. Her voice came soft, steady, carrying the weight of memory. I got him on the helicopter. That's all that mattered. Brian's shoulders shook. He whispered, he lived 2 more years because of you. 2 years we had with him because of you. Olivia didn't answer. She just looked at him, her silence heavier than words. For the others, the weight of their cruelty settled like chains. Williams backed toward the door, desperate to escape the truth of what they'd done. Chen's beer can rolled from his hand, clattering against the floor. Rodriguez looked at his phone, the one he'd been recording on, and realized it now held evidence of their shame. Burke, once so loud, was pale. We didn't know, he whispered, his arrogance gone. Her reply was ice. You didn't want to know. And then alarms. A piercing wail tore through the building. Red lights flashed. A voice over the PA, security breach. All personnel to lockdown positions. Rivera burst back into the room, hand on his sidearm. Unknown intruders on the east perimeter. Multiple hostiles heavily armed. In that instant, Olivia's janitor mask fell away. She moved to the weapons rack, selecting a Barrett with hands that trembled but still remembered, checked it with a calm efficiency that froze the men who had mocked her. Burke stepped forward. What are you doing? She looked at him, her voice flat. There's a ridge 800 meters east, clear lines of sight. It's where I'd set up if I wanted to kill everyone in this building, which means it's where I need to be. Her words carried authority none of them could question, not anymore. Brian spoke quietly, almost reverently. You're taking the fight to them. Olivia nodded. They're not here for training, they're here for what's in this room. She glanced at the rifles, then at Burke, her voice cut sharp. You've been modifying weapons, preparing them for someone who... Burke's face blanched. His bluster dissolved into something else, fear. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt. I was desperate. After my 3rd Passover for promotion, She cut him off coldly. How many rifles? His voice cracked. 6, all with custom firing pins, enough for a kill team. Her visible eye hardened. Then whoever is coming, they're not contractors, they're executioners. Colonel Harrison appeared in the doorway then, tactical vest strapped on, sidearm at his hip. The old soldier walked with quiet gravity. Olivia straightened instinctively, years of training in her bones. Colonel. Ghost 7, he said softly. Been a while. You knew I was here, she said flatly. Yes, he admitted, and I had my reasons. Good ones. Good enough, he said, but his eyes betrayed a sliver of regret. Explanations later. Right now we have a strike team inbound. And Olivia, they're here for you. His words hung in the air like smoke. She tightened her grip on the rifle. The men who had once laughed at her now looked at her differently. Not a janitor, not a ghost, but a soldier standing on the edge of war again. Inside her, the tremor in her hand pulsed. The nerve damage never left her. The humiliation still burned. The betrayal of being discarded, forgotten, unseen, cut like glass. But above it all, something deeper stirred. The voice of the sniper she once was, calm, precise, deadly. And as the alarm continued to wail, Olivia Reed felt the past and present collide. She was no longer invisible. She was no longer forgotten. The enemy was coming, and this time she wouldn't mop up anyone else's mess. Why did the ridge feel like home when she hadn't touched a rifle in 3 years? Olivia lay prone, the Barrett steady against her shoulder, the earth cool beneath her body. Her cheek pressed into the stock, her one good eye peering through the scope. The forest stretched out before her, green and alive, yet hiding shadows. Beside her, Brian Murphy crouched with a rangefinder. His breathing was tight but steady. The boy had training, enough to serve as her spotter if he trusted her lead. "Wind 3 miles per hour," he whispered. "Shift northwest." She adjusted without hesitation. Muscle memory guided her, old instincts overriding damaged nerves. Her hand still trembled when idle, but on the rifle on target, it stilled as if the weapon itself calmed her. Below them, at the eastern fence, headlights cut through the trees. A black SUV rolled to a stop unmarked. 2 men stepped out, disciplined, deliberate. They carried civilian packs, but their posture was unmistakable. Military training, professional killers. "Range 970, Brian said softly. "Cutting the fence now." Through her scope, Olivia watched them breach the base perimeter. Their movements were clean, efficient, without wasted motion. She muttered, "Not amateurs." Brian swallowed. "Ex-military. Special forces, maybe even ours," she said coldly. "The way they move, it's our playbook." She tracked them deeper into the tree line, every step calculated. And then she saw it, a flicker of gear on the lead man's wrist. Not a watch, bigger, a ballistic calculator, the same model Phantom unit had carried. Her pulse tightened, her voice was a whisper. "They're using our tools, our tactics." Brian's voice cracked. "Against you." "Against us," she corrected, her eye hardened. "This isn't cleanup, it's replacement. They're building a new Phantom, and I'm the one they couldn't erase." Her calm hissed. Colonel Harrison's voice cut through static. "Ghost 7, we have movement south as well. 4-man team, tactical formation. They're splitting up." Olivia's voice was calm. "Diversion, classic sweep pattern. They don't know where the weapons are. Not yet." "Or they're drawing you out," Harrison warned. She didn't answer. Her scope followed the lead operator as he ghosted through the trees. Something in his gait struck her, the subtle rhythm of his stride. Too familiar, too close. Her chest clenched. She whispered to Brian, "Zoom in on the lead tango, check his face." Brian adjusted the rangefinder, focused. His breath hitched. "God, Olivia, that's Jenkins, Michael Jenkins." Her jaw tightened. "He was my team leader." Brian looked at her, eyes wide. "But he's dead." Her voice was stone. "No, he's here, and he's hunting me." A betrayal that deep didn't just wound. It hollowed. Jenkins hadn't just been a commander. He had been mentor, shield, sometimes almost a brother. She had trusted him in fire and blood. And now he was walking the tree line with enemies, moving with the precision he once drilled into her bones. She exhaled slowly, forcing down the ache. "That means they know all my fallback positions, every contingency, every trick I ever learned." Brian's face paled. "So what do we do?" Her visible eye glinted. A cold, thin smile touched her lips. "We do something Phantom would never expect. We walk straight into the open." Brian stared at her like she had lost her mind. But in his gut, he saw the deadly logic. Jenkins expected Ghost 7 to hide, to retreat, to fight like the soldier she once was. He wasn't prepared for her to break her own code. The forest shifted then. Movement in the south tree line. Another team. Their gear glinted. And then a Humvee rolled into view, armored, turret modified. Its hatch opened. A man rose, hefting a massive weapon. Brian cursed. "Sniper countermeasure, thermal imaging, they'll spot us." Olivia was already moving, packing up the rifle. Her voice was cold steel. "Not if we move now. They know me too well. They knew I'd take this ridge, which means they're hunting me." "How could they know?" "Because it's what I would have done," she cut him off. Someone in that team knows me better than anyone alive. Her stomach twisted, because that meant Jenkins wasn't the only betrayal. Others from Phantom, maybe more than she dared count. They scrambled down the slope, keeping low, weaving through brush. Each step was a race against the sightlens of thermal scopes. Each breath tasted of dirt and ghosts. Her comm crackled again. Harrison's voice. Olivia, we've got multiple breach points. Intruders converging on the facility. Stay mobile. Report when clear. She didn't answer, not yet. Silence was survival now. Brian grabbed her arm, pulled her down behind a fallen log. He pressed a finger to his lips. Footsteps. Two men moving in formation through the clearing ahead. Their posture sharper, more precise, closer than the others. Olivia's stomach dropped. She recognized one of them. Michael Jenkins was not alone. At his side was another face from Phantom Unit. Her voice barely a breath. Jenkins isn't just alive, he brought others. Betrayal burned deeper now. These weren't strangers with her training. These were her own family, her once brothers in arms. Brian whispered, horrified, "Your team, they've turned." Her expression froze into a mask. Not all, but enough. And that means the enemy isn't just copying Phantom. She inhaled, steadying her trembling hand. They are Phantom now. A silence hung heavy. The kind of silence before storms, before bullets cut the air. Brian whispered, "So what's the play?" Olivia's one good eye locked on the enemy clearing, her voice a low promise. "The play is simple. If Jenkins wants Ghost 7 alive, then Ghost 7 is exactly what he'll get." And with that, she rose from the shadows, not as a janitor, not as the forgotten veteran, but as the ghost they had failed to kill. Why did she walk into the lion's den without a weapon raised? The weapons facility's service corridor smelled of oil and dust, lit only by the red glow of emergency lights. Olivia moved with steady, deliberate steps, Brian close at her side. Behind them, the muffled thump of boots, more intruders breaching from the rear. They had minutes, maybe less, before the net closed. Ahead, voices echoed, commanding, professional, cold. She stopped at the corner, pressed herself to the wall, and listened. "Secure the weapons, sweep for the primary. Ghost 7 is in play." Her stomach clenched. They weren't guessing, they weren't hopping, they knew. Brian leaned close, whispering, "They're looking for you." "I told you," she whispered back. "This isn't random, this is surgical, and Jenkins is leading it." She peered around the corner. The main training room had been seized. 6 operatives in tactical gear stood in formation, rifles leveled at Harrison, Rivera, and Burke's men, forced onto their knees in the center. Their humiliation was fresh, their arrogance gone. The room that once rang with their laughter now held only fear. And there he was. Michael Jenkins. Taller than she remembered, hair shaved close, scar jagged across his jaw. His eyes cold, efficient, like all the years between had stripped the man of anything human. Her pulse thudded once hard. "Where is she?" Jenkins asked, voice even almost calm. Harrison's reply was steady, though a rifle muzzle pressed at his temple. "I don't know who you're talking about." A thin smile cut Jenkins' face. "Still playing the old soldier, admirable but pointless. We know Reed's here. We've been watching her for 18 months, patiently, waiting." Harrison's jaw clenched, but he said nothing more. Olivia's hand flexed on her sidearm. She calculated angles, distances, positions. 6 hostiles, Jenkins in the open, Harrison restrained, Rivera kneeling, Burke's men barely breathing, suicide odds. And yet her hand didn't rise. Instead, she did the unthinkable. She holstered her weapon, smoothed her janitor's uniform, and stepped into the open. "Hello, Michael." The word sliced the silence. Every rifle swung toward her. Jenkins turned. For a heartbeat, shock cracked his mask. Then he smiled, cold, hollow. "Olivia." Her steps were measured, calm, her eye patch stark in the red emergency light. Eye patches are fashionable now, she said lightly. I hear you should try one. The operatives tightened their grips, but Jenkins lifted a hand, halting them. His gaze was fixed on her, unblinking. Bold, walking in like this. Not at all the Ghost 7 I trained. No, she said evenly. The ghost you trained would have played by the book, but that ghost is gone. You helped bury her. His smile widened. Not buried, transformed. Look at you. Even with one eye, even with trembling hands, you command the room. That's why you're valuable. Why my employers have gone to such lengths to bring you in. Employers, she repeated. Her voice dripped quiet venom. That's what you call men who butcher civilians for mineral rights. For the first time, something flickered across his face, not guilt, but calculation. Nightshade, he said softly. So that's what this is about. Her voice dropped lower, almost trembling. Answer me, Michael. Was it a mistake or deliberate? His silence stretched. Then with a sigh he spoke. Nothing in this world is simple. Certain adjustments were made, outcomes engineered, civilians die, always have, always will, acceptable losses. Her body stiffened, pain flashing across her face, not from her injuries but from the words. Children, she whispered. Collateral, he corrected coldly. Her eye blazed. It was never a game to me. Jenkins studied her like a specimen. Then he extended a hand. Come with us, Olivia. You've wasted 3 years mopping floors. You can have purpose again. Meaning, the chance to matter. You've always wanted that. For a moment her body betrayed her. She stilled. The offer cut deep because it struck at her rawest wound. She had been discarded, invisible, forgotten. And the temptation of being seen again, of mattering again, was a knife twisted slow. Harrison's eyes never left her face, silent, watching, knowing the war inside her better than anyone. Olivia exhaled. You're right, she said softly. Jenkins' smile grew. But not in the way you think. She stepped closer, voice rising. Nightshade wasn't just a mission. It was a test, to see if we would follow orders even when they were wrong. And you, all of you who betrayed humanity for profit, you failed. Her words sliced sharper than bullets. The operatives shifted, uneasy. Jenkins' jaw hardened. You always were stubborn, always too tied to your conscience. No, she snapped, her voice suddenly powerful, filling the room. I was tied to people, to the men I dragged bleeding to helicopters, to the families who never knew why their sons didn't come home, to the truth. That's the only thing I ever served. For a moment, the room froze in the weight of her voice. Then an explosion ripped through the eastern perimeter. The building shook, glass shattered. The operatives flinched, rifles wavering. Brian appeared in the doorway, weapon raised, smoke at his back. Olivia seized the moment. In a single fluid motion, she dropped low, swept Jenkins' legs out from under him, rolled across the floor and came up beside Harrison. The colonel drove his shoulder into the nearest guard, disarming him with brutal precision. Rivera surged forward, tackling another. Burke's men, once tormentors, now fought for survival. The room erupted into chaos. Gunfire, shouts, tables overturned, concrete chipped and sparked. Jenkins scrambled to cover, barking orders. Secure the rifles, fall back. 2 operatives broke for the reinforced locker. Olivia's voice cut sharp. Harrison, 9 o'clock. The colonel pivoted, firing 2 controlled bursts. One man dropped. The other stumbled, only to be tackled by Rivera, slammed into the wall. Jenkins snarled, signaling his team with a hand gesture Olivia knew all too well. Regroup. They began retreating in formation, laying down disciplined fire as they fell back toward the exit. A perfect phantom maneuver. Let them go, Harrison barked as Burke raised his weapon to chase. Secure the room. Olivia's chest heaved. Sweat mingled with blood down her cheek. Her leg throbbed from the scramble, her damaged nerves on fire. She leaned on the rifle for support, her eye locked on the door where Jenkins had vanished. Her voice was a whisper. He'll be back, and next time he won't hesitate. Harrison's gaze lingered on her, pride and regret woven into one. And next time, Ghost 7 won't either. She said nothing, only breathed. Because inside her a storm raged. Betrayal, rage, a temptation she had almost accepted, and the truth that every ghost leaves a trail and hers was about to blaze brighter than ever. Why does the drive toward safety always feel more dangerous than the fight itself? The convoy tore down the narrow service road, headlights off, engines growling low. Harrison rode point in the lead Humvee, jaw clenched, radio pressed tight. Rivera sat shotgun, eyes scanning the tree line. Olivia crouched in the back with Brian, her Barrett cradled across her knees like a memory she had never wanted to hold again. Burke and his men followed in the second vehicle, their silence louder than any apology. Once they had mocked her for carrying a mop. Now they rode in the shadow of her rifle, afraid to speak. The forest pressed in around them. Tall Georgia pines swayed against the night, branches clawing at the sky. Olivia's one good eye tracked every shadow, every ripple of movement. Her nerves buzzed like broken wires, but her instincts, the instincts Jenkins had sharpened, were wide awake. Her voice was a low warning. We're being funneled. Harrison didn't turn. Explain. They know the extraction points. They trained me on them. This road is predictable, too narrow, too exposed. Rivera muttered a curse. We don't have another option. Air evac was cut off 10 minutes ago. They're jamming comms. Brian leaned forward, whispering, So what do we do? Olivia's fingers brushed the Barrett. Her reply was cold. We prepare to bleed. The words hadn't left her mouth when it happened. A single shot cracked from the ridge. The front Humvee's windshield shattered. Rivera swore, yanking the wheel. Tires screamed. The vehicle fishtailed but stayed upright. Contact sniper, Harrison barked. Automatic fire erupted from the tree line. Tracers carved the night, chewing dirt, sparking off steel. The forest became a cage of light and death. Burke's Humvee slammed brakes, men spilling out, scrambling for cover. Brian clutched the rangefinder, heart hammering. Olivia dragged him down behind the wheel well, her eye already searching the darkness. She whispered to herself, where would Jenkins put them? Her mind raced through his old lectures. High ground, overlapping fields of fire, redundancy, always redundancy. Then she saw it, a flicker of muzzle flash, faint and brief, 2 ridges north, and another mirrored south, crossfire, classic phantom trap. They're bracketing us, she hissed. 2 sniper teams opposite ridges. They'll pin us until they can close in. Harrison's voice boomed over the gunfire. Can you take them? Olivia's hands trembled, the old damage flaring like fire. Her vision blurred for a heartbeat, depth perception fighting her. She blinked, forced her body calm. She had no choice. She pulled Brian close. You're my spotter now. Call wind, call distance, don't second guess, got it? He nodded, terrified but steady. She slid prone beside the Humvee, Barrett pressed to her shoulder. The chaos around her dimmed, narrowed to scope and breath. Brian's voice came sharp, focused. First ridge 800 meters, wind east 4 clicks, adjust left .7. She adjusted, inhale, exhale, half breath, hold. Her finger tightened, the rifle boomed. Through the scope she saw him, the sniper toppled back, rifle spinning into the dirt. The first ridge fell silent. The forest roared with answering fire. Brian shouted, second ridge firing 930 meters, wind cross adjust .9. She swung, adjusted, exhaled, crack. The second sniper dropped, chest blooming red. Silence spread like a wave. For a moment, only the forest breathed. Then Harrison's voice, beautiful work. But Olivia didn't smile. Her eye stayed locked on the tree line. Not beautiful, too easy. The words proved true. A shadow moved closer, then another. A dozen figures slipping through the trees, rifles raised. The snipers hadn't been hunters, they'd been bait. Brian cursed, They're surrounding us. Harrison's tone was steady. Defensive perimeter, hold the line. Burke's men scrambled, laying down suppressive fire. Rivera barked orders, moving like a man trying to erase his earlier cowardice. The firefight lit the night, every tracer a heartbeat. Olivia reloaded, slid another round into the chamber. She whispered to herself, "Michael, I know this play, I know you." And then, as if summoned, his voice crackled across the enemy's comms, patched through their radios, clear and calm. "Olivia, you should have taken my hand when you had the chance." Her chest tightened. She ripped the earpiece free, but the voice still echoed in her mind. Jenkins wasn't hunting them. He was hunting her. Brian leaned close, desperate. "We can't hold this. They'll cut us down." Her voice was calm, almost eerily so. "They don't want you, Brian. They want me. And if I stay here, everyone dies." Harrison caught her words. "Don't even think about it." She looked at him, her expression unreadable. "It's not about thinking, it's about math. They'll keep pressing until they break through. But if I move, if I draw them, they'll follow. They'll always follow the ghost." Rivera barked, "That's suicide." Her reply came soft but iron. "So is staying." She slid a fresh mag into the Barrett, checked the action, and stood. The moonlight caught her profile, weary, scarred, bleeding, but unbroken. Brian grabbed her arm. "Olivia, don't." She placed a hand on his shoulder. Gentle, firm. "You told me your brother called me an angel. Angels don't hide in Humvees, Brian. They walk into fire." And before anyone could stop her, Olivia Reed broke from cover, rifle in her hands, moving into the open road. The forest erupted. Muzzles flared, bullets screamed. Sparks lit the dirt at her feet. But she kept walking, slow, steady, like a phantom that could not be killed. Behind her, Harrison shouted orders. Burke's men covered her with desperate fire. Rivera swore, firing until his rifle smoked. But Olivia only saw one thing, the shadow of Jenkins on the far ridge, watching her, waiting. Her voice low, a promise to herself. "You wanted Ghost 7, here she is." And the hunt began. Why does betrayal cut deeper when it wears a familiar face? The forest swallowed her whole. Olivia moved like a shadow between pines, her Barrett heavy but steady in her arms. Bullets snapped past, chewing bark, hissing like angry wasps. The operatives pressed her from every side, trying to cage her in. Her breaths came slow, measured. She had lived this nightmare before. A dozen missions where the enemy was everywhere and nowhere. Only this time the enemy was her own. She slid behind a fallen trunk, scanned the ridge. Jenkins stood above, silhouette framed by moonlight. He didn't fire. He didn't chase. He only watched, calm and patient, like a wolf letting his pack run down the deer. "Come on, Olivia," his voice drifted through her calm. "Don't make me drag this out. You know how this ends." Her jaw clenched. She wanted to rip the earpiece out, but part of her needed to hear it, to remember every word when this was over. Movement to her left, two shadows advancing low. She swung, fired. One dropped instantly, chest blooming red. The other ducked, rolled, and returned fire. Bark splintered around her. She dropped flat, pulled her sidearm with her offhand, and squeezed off two shots. Silence followed. Her hands trembled as she reloaded. The nerves screamed at her, every scar reminding her of what she'd lost. She whispered to herself, a mantra against the shaking. One more breath, one more round, one more step. But the forest wasn't silent for long. Another shadow emerged, close, too close. A rifle butt smashed into her ribs, knocking her to the dirt. She gasped, pain flooding her chest. Boots pressed against her arm, pinning her down. "Got her," the operator shouted. Olivia twisted, teeth gritted. Her free hand shot up, grabbing a knife from her vest. One sharp thrust and the man staggered back, choking on blood. She rolled, slammed the Barrett stock into his face. His body went still. But her own breath was ragged now. Her side burned where the blow had landed. She pressed against the trunk, trying to find strength. and then a voice, close, too close. "Olivia." She froze. From the shadows stepped another man she knew, Jacob Vance, Phantom Unit's medic. His eyes met hers, and for a moment something flickered: recognition, hesitation, maybe regret. He raised his rifle anyway. Her voice broke raw. "Jacob, why?" His hands trembled, but his aim didn't waver. "We were ghosts, Olivia, forgotten, left behind. Jenkins gave us a way back, a way to matter again." Her eye glistened, fury and sorrow tangled. "By killing your own, by becoming mercenaries." His voice cracked. "By surviving, is that all any of us wanted?" For a heartbeat, silence hung between them. The medic who once patched her wounds, now aiming to make a final one. She lowered her weapon, her voice soft, cutting. "If you think survival is the same as living, then you already died." Jacob's lips trembled. For a moment his rifle dipped, his eyes watered, and then a shot cracked from the ridge. His body jerked. Blood bloomed across his chest. He fell to the dirt, lifeless. Olivia's head snapped up. Jenkins lowered his rifle from the high ground, calm as ever. His voice slid through the calm like a knife. "He was weak. You would have killed him anyway." Her chest heaved. Fury surged through her veins. "You don't get to erase him like that." Jenkins' chuckle was low, mocking. "You still don't get it. Ghosts don't have friends. We have tools. And when tools break—" She cut him off with a roar. "Enough." Her rifle snapped up, scope trained on his ridge. She fired. The round chewed bark inches from his shoulder. He didn't flinch. Instead, he raised his arms, almost welcoming her rage. "That's the fire I remember. That's why you belong with me, Olivia, because you can't deny it. You need this. The rifle, the hunt, the war. It's the only place you're alive." Her breathing shuddered, because part of her knew he wasn't wrong. She had been a ghost long before the mop and bucket, before the humiliation. The silence of a rifle's report was the only place she had ever felt whole. But not like this. Never like this. More shadows closed in. 3 operators circled, rifles raised. She pivoted, fired. One dropped. She dove sideways, rolled behind another trunk, Barrett clutched tight. She was outnumbered, outflanked, running on nerves and rage. And yet she didn't stop. Because somewhere deep, beneath the scars, beneath the humiliation, beneath the betrayal, the sniper she once was had clawed her way back. Each shot she took wasn't just survival, it was defiance, proof that she hadn't been erased. The operators fell one by one, until the forest rang with silence again. Her chest heaved, sweat dripped down her brow, stinging her eye. Her hands shook violently now, nerves betraying her body. She leaned hard against the rifle, whispering to herself. Not yet, not done, not dead. Above her, Jenkins' silhouette loomed still, unmoving, watching. His voice came again, calm, certain. "You can't kill me, Olivia. You never could, because some part of you still believes I mattered, that we all mattered." Her eye burned, not from sweat, but from tears she refused to shed. Her voice came low. "You're wrong, you mattered once, but you chose to kill that man, not me." And for the first time, Michael Jenkins' smile faltered. Why do survivors always feel more like the condemned than the saved? The forest finally stilled, the echoes of gunfire fading into a heavy silence. Smoke hung in the trees, drifting like the ghosts of the fallen. Olivia stumbled back toward the convoy clearing, Barrett dragging at her side. Every step was a negotiation with pain, ribs cracked, nerves aflame, her eye burning with grit and sweat. Harrison stood at the edge of the Humvee, blood soaking his sleeve, but his posture still proud, unbroken. Rivera crouched beside a body bag hastily zipped from a tarp, one of Burke's men, caught in the crossfire. Burke himself sat against a wheel well, head in his hands, shame heavier than the wound bandaged on his leg. Brian spotted her first. Relief lit his young face, but it was tangled with something else, guilt. He rushed to her, steadying her arm as she half fell against the vehicle. You shouldn't have gone out there alone, he whispered, voice raw. She looked at him with her one steady eye. I wasn't alone. I had your calls, your ranges, that kept me breathing. His throat worked as he tried to reply, but no words came. Harrison stepped forward, scanning her face. You found them. Her voice was flat. Found him. The colonel didn't ask. He knew who she meant. Jenkins. Rivera broke the silence. Then it's true. Phantom isn't dead. It's been twisted. Olivia leaned against the Humvee, every muscle trembling. Not twisted, bought, sold. They didn't just erase us from the records. They rebuilt us for hire. Jenkins leads what's left, and he won't stop until I'm ash. Burke finally raised his head, eyes hollow. This is my fault. Harrison's gaze hardened. Explain. Burke's voice shook. I was approached 6 months ago. Men in suits, promises of advancement. They wanted modifications to the weapons, firing pins, calibration tweaks. I didn't ask questions, I just did it, because I was tired of being passed over. His voice cracked. I didn't know it was them, didn't know it would bring this. Olivia's eye cut into him like a blade. You didn't want to know. The words echoed from earlier, sharper now, heavier with truth. Burke flinched as if struck. But Brian, standing beside her, spoke softly. He was blind like we all were, until now. Olivia didn't answer. Her silence was worse than rage. Harrison shifted the weight of the moment. We don't have long. Jenkins won't retreat. He'll circle, regroup, and come back hard. And next time he'll bring the rest of his ghosts. Rivera spat into the dirt. Then we don't wait, we take the fight to him. Burke looked up, hollow eyes narrowing. You don't get it. You can't fight Jenkins like any other enemy. He knows every move before you make it. Olivia spoke then, her voice tired but certain. Which means the only way to beat him is to do what even I wouldn't do. Brian frowned. What does that mean? She didn't answer. Not directly. She just stared into the trees, into the shadows where Jenkins watched and waited. Her mind ran through every lesson he had drilled into her. Never reveal position. Always control the tempo, kill emotion before it kills you. And she realized the only way to win was to break every one of his rules. The colonel studied her face. You're planning something reckless. Her lips pressed thin. Not reckless, necessary. Brian stepped forward, desperate. You don't have to carry this alone. You've got us now, me, all of us. Her eyes softened for the first time that night. She reached out, gripped his shoulder. And that's why you'll live, because I'll carry it. Rivera cursed under his breath, angry and helpless. Burke stayed silent, swallowed by shame. Harrison only nodded, the old soldier understanding what it meant to walk into a fight you might not walk out of. The night deepened. They set up a defensive ring around the convoy, headlights cut, rifles braced. Every shadow looked like an enemy. Every gust of wind whispered like footsteps. Olivia sat apart from them, rifle across her lap, staring into the darkness. She thought of Jacob Vance, the medic who had once saved her life, dead now by Jenkins' bullet. She thought of the villagers from Nightshade, their faces blurring in memory, their screams eternal. She thought of her years mopping floors, invisible, erased. Her hand trembled violently. She gripped the Barrett tighter, forcing it still. Brian approached quietly, sitting beside her. For a while he said nothing, just breathed with her in the silence. Finally he asked, Do you ever wish you hadn't come back, that you stayed gone? Her throat worked. The words were slow, heavy. Sometimes, being invisible hurts less than being remembered wrong, less than knowing what they did with my silence. He nodded, looking down at his hands. My brother used to say the same thing, that living after the war felt harder than dying in it. Her eye glistened. She whispered he wasn't wrong. For a moment they sat in quiet solidarity, two souls tangled in the weight of ghosts. Then movement. Shadows rippled in the tree line. Not random, deliberate. Jenkins was repositioning. The storm wasn't over, it was circling. Olivia rose, steady despite the fire in her ribs. Her voice carried across the camp. He's coming, and when he does, there won't be another retreat. Harrison's gaze was steel. Then we stand, one line, one last time. Olivia's fingers brushed the rifle stock, her voice low. No, not one line, one ghost, he wants me. Then he'll have me. Her words hung like judgment, chilling the night. Brian stepped toward her, voice breaking. If you go alone, he'll kill you. She met his gaze, her eye fierce. Then I'll die on my feet, not scrubbing their floors. And with that, Olivia Reed, the janitor, the broken soldier, the ghost, prepared to face the man who had once been her commander, her brother, her betrayer. The final hunt was about to begin. Why does the final battle never feel like victory, only survival? The night was brittle with silence. Every man in the convoy felt it. The forest had gone still, like the earth itself was holding its breath. Somewhere in those shadows, Jenkins waited. Olivia stepped away from the circle of headlights, Barrett slung across her back, sidearm heavy at her hip. Each step felt like it was carrying her farther from the living and closer to the dead. But she didn't hesitate. Not once. Harrison's voice called after her, steady but weighted. You don't have to do this alone. She didn't turn. Yes, I do. Brian's voice cracked, desperate. If you go, you might not come back. Her reply was quiet but clear. Then remember me right, not as a janitor, not as a ghost, as someone who stood. She vanished into the tree line, swallowed by shadow. The forest closed around her, thick with tension, alive with echoes. She moved slow, deliberate, scanning every angle, every ridge. Her body screamed with pain, nerves betraying her, ribs grinding with each breath. But her mind, her sniper's mind, was razor sharp. A whisper drifted across the night, carried on her comm. Jenkins' voice, calm, familiar. You always were predictable, Olivia, walking into the dark alone, trying to carry the weight for everyone else. Her lips curled in a bitter smile. Better than hiding behind mercenaries and corpses. A low chuckle. Still sharp, still dangerous, but broken all the same. Tell me, when you pull the trigger tonight, will your hands even hold steady? She closed her eye, inhaled, and whispered, steady enough. Then silence. Until a crack split the night. A round tore bark inches from her head. She dove behind a tree, dirt spraying as more shots slammed around her. He was close, closer than she'd thought. She rolled, drew the Barrett, pressed to the ground, scanned the ridge. Nothing, too quiet. Then she saw it, a glint of glass 30 yards ahead. Wrong angle, wrong height, a decoy scope. She spun just in time. Jenkins came from her flank, silent as a ghost, rifle raised. The world slowed. Her sidearm cleared its holster, his barrel locked on her chest. 2 soldiers, 2 ghosts, 1 breath from the end. Their eyes locked. Do it, he said softly. End me. Prove you're still Ghost 7. Her finger tightened. Her breath steadied. And in that heartbeat she saw it all, the villages, the betrayals, the men who once laughed as she scrubbed their floors, the blood of Jacob Vance, the grief in Brian's eyes, the silence of Harrison's regrets. And she realized something Jenkins never had. Being Ghost 7 wasn't about the shot. It was about the choice. Her gun fired. The round struck his rifle, tearing it from his hands. Splinters flew as it crashed into the dirt. He staggered back, shocked. She rose, sidearm trained on him, her voice low and fierce. I'm not your ghost, Michael. Not anymore. He straightened, laughing bitterly, arms wide as if daring her. Then finish it. You can't walk away now. You'll never escape what you are. Her voice trembled, but her aim did not. You're right, I'll never escape, but I can choose what I carry. He sneered. And what's that? Shame, regret. Her eye burned, dignity. The shot cracked, Jenkins fell. Silence claimed the forest again, deeper this time, final. She stood over him, chest heaving, side burning, nerves screaming. His eyes flickered once more, a shadow of the man he had been. Then they dimmed. For a long moment she just stared at him, not triumphant, not relieved, just tired. She whispered, "Goodbye, Michael." The forest answered with nothing. When she returned to the convoy clearing, the men rose as if seeing a specter step from the trees. Brian ran to her, eyes wide, searching her face for some sign, some answer. She said nothing, just laid the Barrett gently against the Humvee, as if putting down a weight she had carried too long. Harrison stepped forward. His voice was low, almost reverent. "It's done." She nodded once. Rivera exhaled, the fight draining from him. Burke bowed his head, shame etched deeper by her silence. Brian asked softly, "Did you kill him?" She looked at him for a long time, then spoke. "No, he killed himself long ago. I just stopped the echo." The boy swallowed hard, tears brimming. "Then what now?" Her gaze drifted toward the horizon, where the first faint light of dawn broke through the trees. Her voice carried like a whisper of truth. "Now we live, and we carry it quietly, because sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts." The forest stood in silence, the night's ghosts fading with the sunrise. And Olivia Reed, once a janitor, once a soldier, once a ghost, walked forward, scarred but unbroken, into whatever came next.